moderator for the session. Let us wait. I think we can officially start the session at 6:40 for more people to have joined. John, you can introduce yourself.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Abuya John. I'll be a co-moderator with Irene. We are glad that you've created time and joined. I'm looking forward to an engaging discussion this evening. Yeah, I think as you've said, we will start at 6:40. Thank you.
Just a quick notification of just how the session is going to run. We'll have introduction of the panelists at 6:40 when the session starts. Then we'll have a panel discussion with all the 3 panelists. And after that, we'll go into breakout rooms to enable us to have more discussion, one-on-one discussions with the panelists. Each person will have a chance to choose the room they want to attend and listen to, which panelist. I think we can begin the discussion. So I'll introduce the first panelist with us today. His name is Maina Migwi. Probably you can turn on your camera for people to see you. Maina Migwi is the founder and CEO of Suluhu Mediation Center, as well as the chairperson of the Mediation Trainers Association. I think if you've been in a couple of DR Hubs activities, you have probably interacted with him. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. Welcome to the session.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here this evening. Thank you.
We also have James Ngotho Kariuki, who is a member of the DR Hub, and he is also a lawyer who also holds a master's degree in law from the University of Nairobi. He's the chairperson of the Young Members Group of Chartered Institute of Arbitrators here in Kenya, as well as an associate at the DLA Paper Africa. Probably if he's here, he can turn on his camera for people to see him.
Good evening, everyone, and greetings to those who are joining from beyond. So wherever you are, my name is James Ngotho Kariuki, and as mentioned, I am an ADR practitioner. I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. I'm also on the board as well. And generally speaking, ADR practice is my bread and butter, and I'm looking forward to a very productive discussion. Thank you. Sorry, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome to the session. John, you can introduce the next panelist.
Yes, thank you so much. The next panelist we have Saada, who is an independent arbitrator and also an accredited mediator. We'd also wish to know that she's also certified in cybersecurity. She's a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and quite interestingly, she's also a first-class graduate from the Kenyatta University, Bachelor's of Laws. So I'd just like to welcome her, and she can also say hi, introduce herself. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much, John, for that kind introduction. My name is Saada. I am an accredited mediator and also a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and currently pursuing my master's at Strathmore University. I think that's the back and forth of who I am, but we'll get to know each other better as we move along. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I think we'll get to move into our next session, whereby we'll have discussions with our panelists, and I think we'll get to ask various questions to our panelists who get to answer them. And so I think we'll start with our first question, and to our first panelist, Maina Migwi. I think at the beginning, and when you were beginning the ADR, your ADR journey, what is this one unique milestone or memory that is still there? What keeps ADR still in your mind? Yes.
Well, I think the milestone was I've been practicing dispute resolution for quite a number of years, and I started my journey while working in the South African region. I was and that time I was working in logistics, and I would always find myself handling these or that dispute. Would go to CB engagements, union engagements with employees, and I would always end up being picked upon to help lead the deliberations, not on the side of the employer, but as a neutral party. And I then came to know that I came to learn about mediation in particular, and ADR much later, only to get to know that what I was doing was actually mediation. And then getting to look for formal training in the practice sometimes back in 2012. And then that's how I started the journey of mediation, having been mediating for some time in whatever form and shade I was doing it at that time. And now having done, gotten the formal training, then I embarked on the practice. And I think I'm really passionate about ADR, giving people an opportunity to resolve disputes, their own disputes. After all, they are the experts of their disputes, having created them in the first place. So giving them an opportunity to resolve, and the relief that I would see them have really inspired me to embark on this journey, and there has been no looking behind. And so here I am, also now training others, and also getting engaged in quite a number of things, including growing the practice locally here, at the court level and also outside of the courts. And so, yes, that's my how I got into this space, and that's a remarkable start to my journey in this space.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, as you heard, you may be engaged in conflict resolution, not knowing really it's mediation, but then it may be a path to open you up to the opportunities in the ADR world. And so also important to note the relief that the parties have after the conflict resolution motivates someone to continue in the ADR world. That is very nice to note. I'll proceed to Saada Law. Just the same question, one unique experience, memorable experience with mediation and with ADR. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. I would say one of the most defining moments for me, and sort of the thing that got me out there in terms of ADR, whilst I had an interest in it, for a long time I did nothing about it. So it was, I think, a few years before I graduated that I thought, well, what can I do to nurture this interest that I have? And really, is it an interest that I have, or is it like a fluke? So that brought me to the first conference we had, the inaugural conference we had at the Kenyatta University School of Law, which was their first ADR conference. And it was a school that wasn't really engaging in alternative dispute resolution. So it was nice to be sort of the connoisseur of that and start off that particular area. Also, luckily, I happened to be working for an NGO that was based in Garissa, Kenya, and that sort of redefined my path of mediation specifically and how I wanted it to be. And it made sense to me. In what sense would I want to join the arbitration field, or rather the ADR field, and how would I want to tap into that? So I'd say that's been very defining for me, and it's given context to the work that I want to do, especially when it comes to ADR. And finally, sometime last year, I think in June, was it, I had the privilege of getting the SIAB to the Next Generation Award, I believe. So that was really nice. That really sort of it affirmed the path that I'm taking. And also it was important for me as a young mediator or a young arbitrator to just bring up the voice of young arbitrators and mediators and say, in fact, you're doing exactly what you need to be doing and you're on the right path. So I think that was a very defining moment for me. Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. From an interest to a Next Generation Award, that's very nice. Yes. To our next speaker, James, you can maybe share that memorable experience of what stands out for you when you think of ADR. Yes.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you, Irene. So far, so good. I've had quite a few, to be honest, but I'll focus on two that were particularly defining for me. So for starters, this was probably in the year 2012. Now we're moving to 2013. And at the time, I was a student at Strathmore University. So what happened, and I think it still does to date, is they used to host the introductory course for the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, generally introduction to ADR. So I remember at the time, comparatively, I was a child, because the idea was, this space is being occupied by those who ideally are doing something else, and they'll just want to hop in just to try out ADR. And you'd find that most of those people are already practicing dispute resolution in one way or another, either through litigation, they're already in that market. So when I found myself in that space, it might not be a particularly positive story, but I can guarantee that the outcome was positive. Because the first question that someone asked me is, what am I doing here? And I remember thinking about that question in the sense that, one, this is not a question that was asked to anyone else. And two, it had the undertone of you should not be here and you need to justify your presence and do something more than what is being done by those who are around you. So keep in mind, this is just ideally it's you just being present in a forum where people are starting the ADR journey. And in as much as in that moment when I was asked why I was here, it helped me because in the moment when you start something that you're interested in, you're not particularly sure if it's something that's going to work out. You're not sure if it's something that you're going to be successful in. And you might as well just jump into it and try. And one of the things and one of the defining moments that came out of that is I realized that I am actually good at what at the time guys were perceiving as ADR, and it was basically mediation, arbitration, and adjudication. And I was good on paper. And now this brings in my second key moment, which is I did a very short article it was a one-page article. And ideally, the article was just an illustration of the arbitration process in the form of bubbles and texts. And ideally, I went to, some of you may be aware of this site. I went to Canva. I created, text bubbles, and I was like, this is arbitration summed up in one page. And the response that I got was, one, so many people had done so much within the dispute resolution space, but very few people had actually tried to simplify the process to be absorbed and just to make people realize how, not easy in terms of substance, but how comprehensible, how this is something that anyone could do if they started the process. And what happened maybe a few months after that is someone reached out to me, an international arbitrator. He had received an ICC arbitration, and he wanted me to be a tribunal secretary. And at the time, those two words didn't mean anything to me combined, probably separately. I know what a tribunal is, I know what a secretary is, but a tribunal secretary, that didn't make any sense. And long story short, I was thrown into the deep end because ideally you're doing everything and anything under the sun for a whole panel, which started from drafting all the stuff that they were saying in terms of the initial drafts and having them look at it and have something go out. So for the very first time at a very young age, I understood the ADR process, even though this was an arbitration, from start to end on a practical level. And it dawned on me that this is not only something that I can do in theory, it's something that I can manifest in practice. And that is very eye-opening, just like anyone else, just like any other human being. The moment you affirm yourself that you are actually capable of doing something to the standard that you want to do it, and then you hop into it, it's going to turn out positive. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, John.
Yes, thank you so much. Reminds me of one of our Kenyan athletes who says it's all about participation, and participation makes the difference for even us as the young practitioners. Yeah, so just to assure our members, those who join, that the session is being recorded and will be availed to us, and we'll be able to access the recording. Yeah, so I'll pass on the baton to Irene. We'll ask some set of questions as we proceed. Thank you.
Before moving on to the next question, I think it is truly important to reflect on each panelist's journey into ADR, and it really helps us appreciate the theme of today's session, that is getting it right from any start. It is clear that each person had their own different journeys before getting into ADR, and up to where they are now, it's quite a remarkable journey to learn from. So on to the next question. It's about what are the less known pathways of becoming an ADR practitioner. It is, in my opinion, a misconception that this journey is only for those in the legal field, especially lawyers. You're expected, this can be so much more easier for you. But you have heard from Maina that even him, from a background in logistics, he has been able to venture into this field. I think we can hear from Saada first.
Thank you very much, Irene, for the question. Okay, so I'll start with a punchline and I'll say this. Where there are problems, or rather where there are people, there are problems. And where there are problems, there's ADR. That's the first thing you always have to put your mind to. That the concept of ADR is built on two principles. It's built on people and it's built on disputes. Once you're able to understand that, you quickly realize there's literally so much you could tap into in terms of alternative dispute resolution. But if I'm to sort of bring it together and tie it down to what I would advise people to tap into, you realize very quickly that, okay, in my few, I would say a year of practice or a few months of practice, you quickly realize that there's different areas of ADR. So there's somebody who's in tax, there's somebody who's in finance, there's a different individual who's in community disputes, there's a different individual who's doing maybe commercial disputes. So what's practical is, or what's important to note is, there's some areas that are not really tapped into, and what can I do to get myself there? But one thing that is important to note is that you will need the content, or you will need the knowledge in that area. So I'll give you an example. So for instance, you want to be a tax practitioner and you want to go into tax, right? And you want to be a mediator or arbitrator in tax. You cannot be a tax dispute resolver if you don't understand the fundamentals of taxation. So it's finding a niche that I'm interested in, being specifically and very good at that particular area, and then looking for disputes within this particular niche and then becoming great at it. I'll give you another example rather. So for me, I do cybersecurity. That's something that I like doing. Out of the whole law thing, I found something that works for me or makes sense to me. So you find that within tech, there are also disputes that arise. There are different disputes that arise within the tech space. So you find a niche within tech. It could be AI, it could be cybersecurity, it could be software development. So you're a lawyer, but you understand the fundamentals of probably cybersecurity and what encompasses cybersecurity, and then you find your niche there. I'll give a good example of an area that I believe has so much potential, which is something that I worked on a few years right after university, which was community-based dispute resolution. And I'll give an example of the community that I was working with. So we were dealing with land disputes. And for many years, this particular community had been unable to register their community land. And the question was, why are you guys unable to register this particular land? And it pointed to, the only problem was that this side of the community doesn't want the land to be registered. This other side of the community wants the land to be registered. So it was all about bringing these two communities together, explaining to them why it was important for us to register that particular community, while still using the common principles of ADR to facilitate this dispute between these two individuals. So essentially what I'm trying to drive my point to is that you realize that you can tap in any area. It doesn't have to be law, it could be engineering, it could be tax, it could be commercial disputes, it could be finance, it could be insolvency disputes. Recently, there's been a crop up of using mediation. Would mediation or arbitration be a dispute resolution mechanism that could be potentially used for insolvency disputes. So it's essentially finding a gap and then realizing that there's disputes in this particular gap and then informing yourself within that particular area and sort of churning all those principles. And you realize the core principles that you learn in mediation, the core principles that you learn in arbitration will cut across all the areas of practice. So it's not a new thing. The only new thing is sort of informing yourself on the area that you want to tap into. So I'd say the oyster is huge. So you just need to realize, what am I good at? What do I like doing? And even recently, we've seen a lot of researchers who are appreciating ADR. So for instance, if you're a tax practitioner and maybe you handled a tax tribunal matter in ADR and you've realized there's a gap between law and practice, then it's upon you to write a document and maybe elucidate further on the same. So there's really so many areas that somebody could tap into. You just need to know what you like and what you appreciate and go for it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your insight. Now you can have James, still on the same question of what are the less known pathways of becoming an ADR practitioner?
All right. Thank you for that. And thank you, Saada. I think she touched on some very important points, particularly on identifying your niche, because I'm just going to add a few tidbits to what she has said. So a few things for you to understand if your intention is to join the practice. Just like any other practice, there are those who are already there, those who are doing exactly what you want to do. And unless the area that you want to establish yourself in is so new, with such that there is not a single individual, both domestically and internationally, who's done it before, I believe it is very important to have someone who has done it before tell you what it is like on the inside and offer guidance, because one of the it's not a mistake really, but it's something that really wastes your time, is we try to reinvent the wheel because there's some things that have been done, but perhaps you can add a twist to it. And there's some niches that have already been established in other places that you can now bring home. And by home, I mean within the jurisdiction. So starting off, I know the question is phrased as, the lesser known ways, but I would call them the ways that are not as popular, because there are ways that are already known, but then it's not what will get to you first. So for example, one of the misconceptions is, as a young practitioner, one of the ways to get in is, be close to those who are, and that's about it. But then the reality is there is quite a lot of work to do. And one aspect of that work is consistency. So in every time I've gotten an opportunity to speak, I've always highlighted and emphasized on visibility. It doesn't matter which way you decide to go in. It just matters which audience and the size of that audience that you want to see what you're doing. So it's very important to establish, as Saada's pointed out, be already well caught up with the basics. And the basics would be the simple principle, or the basic underlying principles that support, be it arbitration, be it mediation, or any other method of dispute resolution. Because one of the things that sets people apart is if you don't have an understanding of the basic principles, then you'll find yourself, as you're pursuing your niche, once or twice you'll be challenged to answer something that is beyond your scope, but is within the scope of general practice. And another issue, or rather another thing that ties into being put in that position is, as a young practitioner, rest assured, either by a party or by a party's representative, or even by fellow colleagues in the profession, you will be put to the test. Because the constant question that will be put to you is, why you and not this person who's been at it for 20 years. Approach it from that perspective. Why would someone come to you who's probably just started off as opposed to the person who has been in for quite a bit of time? And one of the main factors about the dispute resolution space, just like litigation, is that it's an experience-led profession. People will feel safer in someone who has had more experience in solving problems than those who have not. So how do you move over this hurdle? Now, it's one thing to identify a niche. It's another to be seen doing so. And it's another to put yourself in a position where you know more than the person who may bank on being experienced, but not necessarily have that same visibility. On a practical level, if you want to specialize in a particular aspect of ADR, as I've mentioned, let's not forget, be good in the basics. But at the point in time that you want to specialize, let's say in construction arbitration, because one, it's a very common area, but at the same time, there are niches within construction disputes. It doesn't even have to be adjudication. And when you talk about construction, for example, if it's a dispute adjudication board, which you may want to be a part of, or you may want to literally end up practicing at some point in time, it's going to sound like a broken record, but there are low barriers to entry with respect to any practice within dispute resolution. And one is simply expressing your view on a particular issue. Emerging issues within the dispute resolution space are a hot topic to, or you can use them as vessels that you can now ride into the profession. So say your passion particularly deals with intellectual property, but you can see that there is a particular interest and a lot of conversation around AI, for example. And what you've already seen people doing is expressing their view with respect to, as Saada pointed out, every disputes are part of life, ideally. So once you sit down and ask what are the potential issues dispute resolution-wise that may come up in this niche, and how can those issues be overcome? Because we forget that we want to get to the point where we are solving disputes on behalf of parties or assisting them to reach a resolution. But we forget that we can also do so without having the parties or the representatives in mind and just speak to a general audience. The long and short of what I'm saying is be an authority. Now, being an authority can manifest itself, for example, if you just write an opinion, it could be a one-pager. You can decide to write a brief article because it is you, your audience, and you generating the content for the audience. And when people see that you're a point of authority, then they can approach you on that particular issue, notwithstanding the fact that you may be young or you may be starting out or you may not have enough experience. And the reality is being an authority can also manifest in the manner in which you converse with people. How do you sell yourself to the people around you? If you are a practitioner, then you should present yourself as such. And by presenting yourself, it's not just within fora that may present themselves to you. You actually have to be outgoing. So the other factor is, where is your market? Who are the people that you want to service? And now this is another misconception that I'm going to break, and I'll conclude with this. We all think that, or rather a significant portion of us may think that our market is, for example, the parties or the people who have disputes that want disputes to be resolved. But we forget that it is our peers and colleagues in the profession who not only are they going to know who you are and what they do, but then they are also going to be a mouthpiece for you, because they have seen who you are in terms of what you intend to do within the profession. And if it doesn't fall within their purview, who is the first person that they're going to call? So the reality is, within ourselves as a market, we heavily depend on referrals. And you only refer those people who, if you're in that position, you would think that they would actually do the job. So if I know John, for example, I met John at a conference, I shook his hand, I had a conversation, and I could tell John knows what he's talking about. It might not even be about arbitration or mediation, but it sounds like if John was to get something on his plate, he will not, I will not get feedback that he has done a dismal job or something to the negative. So let's be very connected with those people who are already in. And I would want to emphasize and overemphasize the fact that once you start portraying yourself to the market as an authority in the space, then people will tend not to focus on what exactly you've or how many times or in terms of experience, but they'll focus on the particular thing that you've presented yourself as an authority in. And every moment you get an opportunity to speak, and I'll say this over and over again, if it's a conference, fine, you are not invited as a speaker. You are not invited as a moderator. You're not in a position to be an authority in something, but that's a plain lie, because you're in the room. And if you're in the room, for every conference that I've ever attended, there's a plenary. So for 1 second or 2 seconds, you can be the authority in the room by simply asking a question to the panel. And in those few seconds, you can, one, portray that this is a genuine point of inquiry, depending on the question. Two, you have a firm comprehension of what has been presented. And three, it's a good conversation starter for any other conversation that may follow, simply because you may, someone might have had the same question. They were like, I really like your question. And the speaker may come and tell you that the moment you asked your question, he was sweating balls of sweat, and he really struggled, and he may want to come and convey that to you. So long story short, again, simply put yourself in a position where you present the idea that you understand what you're doing. And once that happens, you'll see not just the intended market, which is, say, the people in need of dispute resolution services, but your peers will also have you in the good books. And for what they cannot do, they will send off to you. I will leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your insight. I think now you can have the final panelist, Mr. Migwi.
Thank you very much. And Saada and James have really expounded on these to a great length. And yes, we've heard about people not really appreciating age in terms of those who are seen to be quite young, may not seen not to command lots of respect in this space. But I think, again, it's not really about age. It's about how you carry yourself. It's about also how you brand yourself. And in terms of branding, it's not having lofty names or brand names. It's about how you package yourself as an individual, as a professional, being an authority in your area. And how do you become an authority? It's through continuous development. Of course, doing research, attending conferences, seminars, meeting with the professionals. And like James has said, it's not about a matter of reinventing the wheel. The wheel is already there. All you need to do is roll it. Great. So in terms of pathways to ADR, and I'm speaking specifically on matters mediation, conciliation. There are many pathways, and I think one can always start from wherever they are, because in whichever area there are opportunities for you to come across conflicts. Conflicts are everywhere. Even in our homes, they are there. So even in the home, you can start from there. You have siblings, you have neighbors, and through the experience or interaction you have with these people, then it can be a start to you taking the first steps in this space. The space is relatively new, and yes, we've talked a lot about creating a niche for yourself. But before creating that niche, it's good to have a good footing by, of course, having some formal training in the area that you'd want to pursue. And you should also, it's important for you to start because you have a passion for what you do, not necessarily because big money is being made in this or that area. Money may not really be a good motivator. You may need to really have it in you. Why do I want to pursue these ADR or this particular branch of ADR? So that if you follow your passion, then everything else will follow. You don't necessarily need to follow it because of money. Now, when it comes to training, there is that basic training that you need to undertake. Of course, you need to do a good choice with the institutional trainer that you will eventually train with. And when it comes to talking about a niche, you also need to understand the guiding principles. Like for instance, if it's mediation, it's about helping parties to resolve their own issues. So you must uphold the principles of self-determination, the principles of informed consent. And as such, when you're talking about a niche, then you need to, if you have some expertise in a certain area, if you're conducting mediation, facilitative mediation, you may not use that information to help your clients to resolve their dispute, because if you are carrying out a facilitative mediation process, then you have no chance of using your information, because you'll not be evaluating the dispute, nor will you be giving recommendations. However, if you are doing evaluative mediation, then you can make use of your expertise and give recommendations. But again, with a good understanding of the principles, then you may need to have a formal consent for them to be taken through such a process. So it's important that as we pursue ADR, we need to be also guided by the Code of Ethical Conduct, which is not an area which is really much spoken about, because if you don't understand the Code of Conduct that you need to observe, then you may find as much as you're doing the right thing, you might end up getting into some pitfalls, because you may at times do the right thing at the wrong time, or go ahead to do things, and then you may be said to have interfered with your party's self-determination, or you may have not upheld the principle of informed consent. So, and it's not just for mediation or ADR, whatever area we are in, there is always, for any professional, they have a code of conduct which they need to adhere to at all times. We also have those and again, what appeals to you? What do you not naturally feel at ease doing? We have some of us who have a background in counseling, psychology, and we are used to helping people deal with the issues. In this ADR space, we also have issues which may not be said to be disputes per se. And like, for instance, we have transformative mediation, in which the mediator's role is not essentially to help people resolve disputes, but to empower them to develop their interpersonal skills. So you may find that this may appeal to people who have a background in counseling or psychology. So it is important to understand the ADR path that you want to take. And that's why, besides the formal training, you may need to do your own research. You may need to attend seminars, webinars like these, interacting with those who have trod that path before you. Because don't reinvent the wheel, like James says. Just learn at their feet, be ready to be mentored, choose your mentor well, ensure that the two of you are able to walk the path together, because it's always, again, important to have the right match in terms of who's mentoring you. Just as much, it's important to have the right match in those who will be training you. So now, so I would say that in whichever area you are, there is, you can consider it as a pathway to ADR, because like it has been mentioned before, be it in the engineering sector, there are things that can be done there. The expertise you have there can help you in terms of the ADR path that you pursue, and that expertise can help you, or rather arm you to be able to help others to resolve disputes. So whichever path, whichever area you are in, it's about looking for what drives you. What's your passion? All right, and then relentlessly pursue it. Success is not overnight. There's lots of work to be done. In as much as these most ADR, like for instance, mediation, is informal, there's a lot of formality in terms of training, lots of formality in terms of continuously working on your knowledge and skills, and again also the experience. Even though you may be eventually be practicing, you'll still need to keep sharpening your skills. You'll still need to keep expanding your knowledge, and as such, you really need to be ready to work. It's not a walk in the path, but it's a very rewarding experience when you pursue it relentlessly, and always ensuring that you're doing the right thing by observing the code of ethical conduct, continuously familiarizing yourself with it, continuously looking at the new trends which are emerging. ADR is a relatively new field, and as such, there are so many things which are happening. There are so many things which are coming up. So keeping up to date with these changes will ensure that you give your clients the very best. So I encourage you to pursue what drives you. So thank you very much, and all the best to those of us who may now be preparing to take their first step in this space.
Thank you so much to all the panelists. It has been quite an insightful session. So for the sake of time, we'll move on to the next session on breakout rooms. I will invite Diana to guide us to the next step. But for those of us with questions, you can opt to type them on the chat or ask them during the breakout rooms.
Yes, Diana,
Hello.
you're muted.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Such a great discussion. I've learned so much and I sound like a broken record by now. We need more time. We definitely need more time to borrow the wisdom and insights of our speakers. So before I introduce the next session, I'd like to tell everyone about what DR Hub is. I am assuming that most of us are members, and if not, that you had joined us in the first session. However, if you're new here, DR Hub is the organizer of this webinar. We are a network of over 250 dispute resolution practitioners. That means arbitration, mediation, conciliation, negotiation, everything under that umbrella. So we organized a series of webinars, what we call the DR Hub ADR Career Planning Series. And that is the theme throughout the webinars. There's 5 of them. This is the second one. Last week, we had a webinar on alternative justice systems, a masterclass by Mr. David Njoroge. I'm seeing a lot of the names that were there last time. So I'm very encouraged that you got so much value from the last time that you decided to come in today. Today, we have our panel discussions that were supposed to tell us how to get it right from any start. We have Maina Migwi, who started ADR and then got formally educated in ADR when he realized that is actually what he was doing. We have James Ngotho, who was started as a student and it sparked some interest in him and he was thrown into the deep end and now he's here. We have Saada, who had the interest, built upon it, and then broke out to start her own thing. So I hope that encourages you that there is no linear path to ADR. However, DR Hub is here, and that is why we have this series to give you your options, to give you the knowledge that you require to start from any point. Whatever point you are in, doesn't matter your age, your educational background. I know there's a misconception about ADR and the legal field that it is more advantageous if you have a legal background. That is a myth that has been busted, I hope, and will continue to be busted over the rest of the series. So next webinar is going to be on the 22nd of May. It's going to be a panel discussion dubbed Institutional Perspectives to ADR, how to select the right house. We will have a panel made up of the CIR, the NCIA, MAC, SDRC, MTA, ACM, and WAK. So all those are houses that which house ADR practitioners, just like DR Hub. And it is important to know how to choose, how to select the right one. What are the considerations depending on who you are, what your interests are, what your background is in. So we will have that next time, and I hope to see you all there. On to our next session, we'll be having breakout rooms. The purpose of this is to help you speak or ask questions to whoever spoke to you most in this panel discussion. So we have 2 techies, one in cybersecurity and an arbitrator and lawyer. We have an independent mediator, and we have a mediator and trainer. So each of them will have a different breakout room, and in a few minutes, you will be guided into whichever breakout room you would like to enter so that you can have a more intimate discussion with the speakers. So, John, would you like to guide us through that?
Yes. So I think Asunta, you can assist us in creating the breakout rooms. So then we'll get to choose where each and every one of us would like to be in for the next 20 minutes. Yeah, I see we already have the breakout rooms. And so we'll be back in the next 20 minutes. And so we can be joining.
Thank you, John. So right now, there is a pop-up on your screen to join breakout rooms. We have left it to your liberty to select which room you'd like to go to. So just select whichever room you are interested in going to. It is completely up to you. You will find individuals in those rooms. And if you're not very sure, maybe just write on the chat and tell me, I want to go to the trainer's room, or I would like to go speak to the arbitrators with James, or I would like to speak to the independent practitioners with Saada. You can write in the chat, or you can just select. Happy 20 minutes. We are still here. John, Irene, and Diana, I think you can move to your respective rooms as well. We will be right here to help the rest. Josephine, I hope you can see the chat.
Yes, I can.
Thank you. So Josephine and I are here to help you get to come back. James, Diana, you look like happy people. All right, I see a thumbs up. And we are 73 in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Asunta. I usually serve as the team lead at the DR Hub. And I was your techie this evening, but I will hand over to Diana. I trust the sessions were good. Diana, over to you and to the moderators.
Thank you so much, Asunta. The sessions were good, I want to assume. I was in Maina's room, and it was a very vibrant room, had a lot of participants. There was a lot of interest in mediation and training in general. I don't know about the rest. Saada, James, did you enjoy your sessions? I was not able to join in.
I enjoyed myself. I like when, it's who's going to speak first, etc. I think the questions that I was asked within my session touched on what I had mentioned, and perhaps the time will always be man's enemy. I usually like telling myself that. And if there was more time, then, we would go on and on and on. And I'm sure there are very many people who had more questions to ask. But the reality is, after this call ends, we don't disappear with the call. I think it's upon each and every person who's here, if they want to hear more from either myself, Ms. Maina, or Saada, it's a matter of them just reaching out, because at the end of the day, what we've said here can be supplemented by either one of us, or all of us combined. But that doesn't mean you start a WhatsApp group and all of a sudden you see James, Maina, and Saada have been invited to a WhatsApp group with their concern. But you understand what I'm saying. So in the course of time, for those who are interested, I am open to any follow-up, any call, any text. I'm sure they'll have an opportunity to distribute our contacts. And yes, I am as approachable. Don't worry, the serious face is deceiving. So I'll try to smile more in future references. But the idea is we are all available to any future conversation. Thank you very much for that, Anna.
I share the same sentiments with John. I'd say, sorry, with James. Oh my God, I was with the John in my breakout. I share the same sentiment with James. I had a really awesome breakout room. Were quite a bit, and they were engaging. They asked questions, and I'd say most of them were as young as I am. So I really love that. tapping into the young souls. And I left my contact details for anybody who would be interested. And please, for anybody here in the room, feel free to engage with us through our LinkedIn contacts. And if you require emails, would be keen on sharing that too. So this is a space where we get to help everybody. I'm still young within the space, but I'm sure I have something to share for everybody along the way, because as young as I am, I'm still learning and relearning a lot of things. And you'll realize along the way that even the young can teach you something. So I'm sure I can learn bits and bobs from either of you and any of you within the room. So don't feel shy. And thank you very much for this particular space. I've learned a lot from the panelists themselves and also for the people who joined my breakout room, and we got to know each other a bit. Yeah, Santeni Sana. And the time was too short, but next time I'm sure we'll have more time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maina. I spoke for you. Please do feel free if you'd like to dissent from my opinion.
Thanks a lot, Diana. Indeed, we had a great time in our room, and it has also been a great pleasure sharing the platform with my panelists. It has been an honor being here with James and Saada, and also having those all who attended today. So just like Saada and James have mentioned, feel free to reach out to us. For those who've been interested in training to become mediators, that's what we do at Suluhu Mediation Center. You can always Google, search us on Google, and you can contact us through our website. For those who may have an interest in matters at training, you can always reach out to us at Mediation Trainers Association. Can always give guidance and support. And personally, I've also learned a lot. We also know we are not always here to teach, but also to learn. Personally, I've learned a lot from the questions and the discussions that we've had here. And thank you so much to DR Hub for arranging this. Asanteni sana.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for that, Maina. As you've heard, we have applause from Josephine. We have applause. Thank you, guys. I do think the speakers today deserve the applause. For James and Saada, I believe we will be seeing you on our next webinar, Institutional Perspectives to ADR. If you didn't know, now you know. I bet you're in copy with that information. So if you would like to borrow some more insights from both of them, please join us on the 22nd of May. We will be sending out the posters and information through your emails and through all DR Hub platforms. Other than that, let us sign off. It's 3 minutes past the time that we borrowed from you guys. Thank you so much for being so gracious. And Les Asunta, do you have anything to tell us before we sign off?
I'd like to make some confessions. First things first, we didn't know breakout rooms would work. Confession number one. I remember when I had a discussion with James and Saada and Maina, they were enthusiastic. My advice to everyone in the room is make your networking count. I've had the pleasure of working with each and every one of them, and they are amazing practitioners, very passionate in what they do. And I am honored that they would come and share the stage and share what they know. So that is number one. Two, maybe you can show me, did any of us enjoy breakout rooms? I know we're trying something new. Should we keep on doing it? Yes, no? I know it's called testing the market. I am definitely testing the market. So we will come back with breakout rooms. I thank you for your engagement and see you in the next webinar. I can't wait to see what the next one holds. Thank you very much. Look out for our emails. We have your email addresses. And so we should be able to email you, I think, James' email address, Saada, Maina, and anything else they allow us to share. Thank you very much. Have yourselves a good evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Good evening to
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all very much. Good night.
Thank you.
In case you have any question, you can leave it in the chat and we'll make sure we will address it before we all pen off as your co-hosts.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
shika nani. Bye bye. Haya, good. Tabia nani?